Good morning, everybody. I started a little bit early. I'm going to give some folks time to jump on. We have about 10 more people registered. Um, it's nice. Let's see. We've got, I see Regina and Diana and Diane, and I see Jonesville, Indiana. So hello. Thank you for joining me. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes just to jump on. Just a little preview for everybody who's already here. This meeting is being recorded. I see, hi, Julie. Julie just jumped on too from Rochester, Vermont. This meeting is being recorded. This webinar is being recorded. So if you want to share this later, you will get this emailed to you. If you want to look at it later, if you have to jump out for any reason, you can definitely get the recording of this. It's no problem at all. So I'll just give everybody a couple more minutes to get started. We have a few people, again, about 10 people that I'm just waiting to jump in and see if they'll jump in. So good, depending on where you are, good morning or good afternoon. It's nice to have you all here. I see Matt. Hello, Matt. I kind of feel like the lady from Romper Room. Like I see Matt and I see Regina and I see Diana and there's Diane and there's the town of Jonesville. I feel like I can't remember what her name was, but I was also a kid. So for those of you that are here, I would love for you to share in the chat what the weather is where you are today. And I will lead off because I will lead off. I actually got to check what the temperature is right now, but what the weather's like. Ooh, gonna be a good day today. Ooh, cold and snow covered. I don't like it. The sun is shining, but it is cold. It's nice to see the sun. I'll say that. All right, let's see. Ooh, we've got some more folks that joined. Rochelle. I see the town of Troy. Mary. The Gaston Clerk Treasurer. Nice to see everybody here. We'll get started in just one more minute. I got a few more people that I'm waiting on to join us. Sunny and 17 degrees with more snow. No, thank you. No, thank you. That is not okay. I know it's February, but it's not okay. We'll talk a little bit more about why that's not okay for me once we get started. But good morning. Grab your favorite drink. Buckle up. We're going to have a nice little chat for 25 minutes or about a half an hour. So just to kind of give everybody an idea of how this will go, I'll be talking. I've got my good friend water bottle here. I'll be talking for about 25 minutes, maybe a half an hour, and then we have time at the end, about 15 minutes for questions, things that you might need more clarification on, things like that. I do have to cut it off, unfortunately, at the quarter hour because I actually have another meeting almost immediately after this webinar. Not quite immediately, but almost immediately. So if there are questions that you don't get answered, I will definitely share my contact information. So you'll have that. I see Annette just joined in. Hello, Annette. Good morning. Good afternoon, since you're in Indiana. Great. It's great to have so many people here. The question of the day so far is, what is the weather like where you are? So if you haven't shared in the chat box yet, go ahead and do that. We will get started in 1 minute. And while I'm doing that, I am going to share my screen so we can get started. Let's see if I can do this the right way. Share screen. Perfect. Perfect. Cold, 18 degrees. No. For those of you from Vermont, I may be reaching out to you in the near future personally, just because I'm stalling just for one more minute. My wife and I are going to be coming out to New England I see -17, and I absolutely don't like to see that. That's especially if there wasn't a -17, if it was a regular 17. No, thank you. My wife and I are coming out to New England for my 45th birthday in July. We're starting in New York City, and then we're going to be in the Vermont and New Hampshire area for 5 days. Then driving down to Newport, Rhode Island for a night in Connecticut, and then ending again in New York City. I have never been to Vermont. We are recreating a trip we were supposed to take in the summer of 2020, but then of course COVID happened. So we're just now starting our Vermont research and where to stay and what to do and all that stuff. And we're both very excited. So I may be reaching out to you Vermonters for a little bit of suggestions, a little bit of help where the really good cheese is. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But yeah, we're both really, really excited for this trip because it's been 5 years in the making. So I'm so happy with the number of people that we've got here. Thank you all so much for joining us. You're all probably in the Eastern time zone, so it's after lunch, hopefully, or maybe you're going to enjoy some lunch right now. So have a great, I hope you have a good rest of your day. You're a lot closer to the end of your workday than I am mine, but no big deal. But today, we're going to talk about the countdown to compliance. And this is just so all of you know, all of you are either from Vermont or Indiana. These are two states that we were made aware had some law changes either that have already gone into effect or are going to go into effect. And so we identified and reached out to you guys. And so I'm really glad that you're here. And we'll talk about it a little bit more as we go along, kind of the specifics of things. But before I even jump into that, I want to formally introduce myself. My name is Chris Astrella. I was a municipal clerk treasurer in Wisconsin. So I very much understand the cold. For almost 17 years, I was a deputy administrator for 10. I am currently an adjunct professor of public administration for my alma mater, UW-Oshkosh, and also Rochester University, just north of Detroit, Michigan. I am a past president of the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association. I love the Packers. I love the Yankees. I was born in Newport, Rhode Island, so I should be a Red Sox fan, but I'm not. And I love In-N-Out Burger. And kind of to tie everything in with Vegas, my wife and I sold everything 3.5 years ago, and we moved out to Nevada because we were so tired of winter. 39 Wisconsin winters was 38 too many. And so for those of you truly experiencing that deep freeze and that cold, I feel you. I really do. Like I know it. I hate it. I don't miss it. So please, and I mean this, I really do mean this. Please stay warm. Know that spring is coming. It is going to be 65 and sunny here all week. So if you need to escape, we're open here in Vegas. Come join us. But I'm really happy that you guys are here. And then, of course, obviously, I'm the government content insider for both TownWeb and HeyGov. And it's kind of what I'm here to do is talk to you about the laws that you guys have to adhere to. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about digital governance. This is actually one of the topics that I teach. I teach a separate class, an entire 2-hour class on this at conferences, at institutes, that sort of thing. But I also have a section for my students in my public administration classes where we talk about digital governance. And really, the move to go digital was always kind of there. It was always kind of happening. It's just that COVID really accelerated things. And we've seen an entire movement away from paper, from in-person operations, and moving towards digitization. Not just putting things on our websites, but also like allowing people to complete work outside of business hours and actually do work that otherwise you guys would have to be doing. And digitization equals, and I'm not going to read this verbatim, but it equals accessibility, and people are kind of demanding more access to information. And we're, by law, and I'm going to say we a lot because there's kind of the old phrase, once you're a clerk, you're always a clerk. And I still kind of am. So if I say we, that's where it's coming from. But we always, there's laws in place. There's sunshine laws. There's open meetings laws that require us as a profession to put information out. But even by doing that, it builds trust in the community. And that's one thing I've learned. And I teach this as well. The lowest level of government, and I don't mean low as in like bad, but like the one that's closest to your front door, is local government. And people typically want to know who their officials are, elected, appointed, whatever. They want to know who the people are that are serving them. They want to be able to trust them and put faces to names and that sort of thing. So this is another way that we can build that trust and build that community and kind of reassure people that this is what you should be doing. This is how we have our accessibility set up. We're here for you. We want to serve you, that sort of thing. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go along. It's one of those themes. Trust is one of those themes you're going to see kind of towards the end. But really, how did we get here? And we really got here, again, from COVID. COVID, it was already happening. I'm going to start with number 2 and then go to number 1. But it was already happening kind of at a snail's pace. But COVID accelerated everything. It just did. A very short story that I will share, because I was a clerk during COVID. I was a clerk treasurer during COVID. I had to send out property tax bill receipts to some people via text message using my personal phone because that's what they wanted because our building was closed. We all had to adapt in some way to still conduct business. And so COVID really accelerated what was already happening. But also what we saw is that the private sector was passing everybody by. We were seeing small businesses do kind of porch pickup is a term that was invented, and contactless delivery. So if you go get a pizza, you can pop open your trunk and they'll, the person in the shop will drop it in your trunk and they don't have to you don't have to go in. Everybody had to evolve because if they didn't evolve, they would go out of business. And so now the people are asking for it. The people are used to what the private sector is providing. And now they're kind of asking, and in some cases demanding, that the public sector catch up. And I don't know if this word Amazonification actually exists. I may have created it, but I'm not sure. What this means is how, and drop in the chat, how many of you guys have an Amazon Prime membership? There is one in our house. My wife and I share one. But Amazon has really kind of upended the expectations of people. Now you can order something and have it delivered to you the next day if you're a Prime member. You can even pay a couple of bucks and have it delivered in a few hours if you live close enough to a distribution center. I had that happen once. We lived 15 minutes from one after having never lived by one in Wisconsin. It was just mind-blowing that I could get something in 15 minutes just like that. So it's Amazon, and all companies have done it as well, but Amazon is the one that I always think of. They've really kind of upended things. People want things now, and really they wanted them last week. So it's kind of that demand again that we're getting from society. I want my information. I want it now. I don't want to spend the time to have to search for it. Make it as easy as possible. So that's kind of the themes that we're coming with here. So the first place I want to focus on is Vermont. Again, coming to visit in 5 months, very excited. 4.5 months, very excited. Currently, the open meeting law, all meetings of a public body are declared to be open to the public at all times. That there's no exception to that. And I'd be willing to bet all of you know that. This should not be a surprise for any of you. This is very similar to what we had in Wisconsin as well. It also provides for participation in meetings through electronic or other means. And kind of in with that, the minutes shall be taken of all meetings of public bodies. They shall cover all topics and motions that arise at the meeting and give a true indication of the business of the meeting. Again, this is kind of, it's kind of common sense as well, but you have to take minutes and you have to make them in a way that people will understand what was happening. And then of course, minutes of all public records, of all public meetings, shall be a matter of public record. This is very similar to what I experienced in Wisconsin, also very similar to what we have here in Nevada. But kind of a little bit deeper into that, every municipal board, council, commission, and committee must abide. These are the public bodies. Again, we would call these governing bodies in Wisconsin, but they all have to apply. They all have to abide by this. A recording, as it's defined, as we understand it as being defined, is an audio and a video file. And so the recordings of those meetings have to be posted. So you have to post the recordings in a designated electronic location for a minimum of 30 days following the approval and posting of the minutes of the meeting for which you were recording. So at a minimum, you have to have them up for 30 days. I don't know I dug deep enough to get this out of it. I don't know if there is a maximum. I can tell you in Wisconsin, it was a maximum depending on if you use them for the purpose of taking minutes or not. It was either 90 days or forever. So it's, again, something that you have to think about, but you guys have to do this. Like, this is the law. You have to follow the law and provide this information. So if you're not doing it, or if you're doing it in a way that doesn't completely satisfy what the law is requiring, that's an issue. That's something that we can fix for you. We'll talk about that in a little bit more as we go along. But this is Vermont. Now I want to switch to Indiana. I actually learned about, and by the way, I should back up really quick. We were told about this law in Vermont from a few of our existing customers in Vermont. We weren't even aware of it. We're always trying to be, but I'm still very connected in Wisconsin, so that's no big deal. But we had no idea this was even happening until we began hearing about this from our Vermont customers. So this is something that we heard, we've adapted to, and we're kind of initiating stuff on our end to help you guys comply with it. Indiana, separately, I was in Indiana at a conference, and I was made aware of this at the conference. So Indiana's a little bit different, but kind of the same. So they enacted Act 1167, which will actually officially go into, it will become a law on July 1st of this year. They did it last year, and they gave everybody a year to comply. And so what the law states is that the meeting recordings must be on a publicly accessible platform. You must have live transmissions of public meetings and an archive of the copies of the live transmissions with any links to meeting agendas, minutes, or memoranda. Of course, as states often do, they didn't provide any money for this. So, of course, we've got an unfunded mandate that we have to meet. But fortunately, they did give everybody a year to try and meet that mandate. I'm going to move on to my next slide here. There we go. If you're in a municipality in Indiana that does not have any internet capability for actually, for doing like a live stream of a meeting, the governing body must record the meeting, and then those public recordings have to be held on to for 90 days. You have to give the public a chance to at least listen to it or watch it if they want to, but then you can destroy those after 90 days. If you have a website, you must include that for live transmission, and residents must be able to access the recording. Again, they have to inspect it, copy it, download it. These are specifically mentioned in the law. So these are all things that if you're in Indiana that you have to follow. You don't have the option to kind of opt out of that. So what does this address? I know for those of you, and again, I was a treasurer, so I think for those of you who are treasurers, you'd probably be like, where am I going to come up with the money for this? Of course. But taking a step back, it really does address public accessibility. And I think this came from from COVID as well. When our buildings were closed, but we still had to have meetings, there's still public meetings. So how can we have the public there if they can't be there? It's really addressing that kind of discrepancy. One really quick example that I'll share. When my wife and I lived in Wisconsin, we attended church semi-regularly, probably not as much as we should. But then, of course, when COVID hit, we couldn't go at all. Our church started doing a live stream of morning services on Sundays. And so we would take my wife's iPad and put it in the kitchen while we were making breakfast. And because, of course, you couldn't go out for breakfast either. And we would attend church that way every Sunday. And I'll be honest, we went to virtual church more than we did the physical church. So it really allows people the chance to be there if they can't be there, whether they're sick, maybe they're homebound, maybe they're traveling and there's an important topic they want to know about. Maybe they're elderly, maybe they don't have the transportation to get there. It's not just necessarily about sick folks or anybody who can't make it. It's really making it accessible to everybody. The laws also address transparency. I mean, this is something that we all have lived with throughout our municipal careers. So much of our jobs are dictated by laws being transparent, what's public and what's not. This just kind of goes hand in hand with that. And also inclusivity, which also ties in to number one about accessibility. They also kind of go hand in hand. A big one for me is the movement towards digital government. Again, this was kind of a natural, slow progression that was already happening, but things have sped up so much that, again, people are now expecting this. If they can't make it to a meeting, they want to be able to go back and watch the recording and tie that in with the minutes. Access to public records. Obviously, of course, this is a public record. How can people inspect it? How can they listen to anything like that? One thing that I'd like to also add, though, is I think this encourages better decision making. And maybe not all the time, but if our elected officials kind of have in the back of their head, this meeting is being recorded, this meeting can be watched later. I don't mean it as like kind of a threat or anything like that, but it's just like they always have that in that frame of mind of, okay, what I'm doing is going to be preserved for X amount of months or years or whatever. Maybe I should make a decision that I'm comfortable with. I've never been an elected official, so I can't totally speak to that, but I would like to think it would encourage better decision making. So a couple of states who have already passed similar legislations. Oregon, a little bit north of me in my neck of the woods, passed House Bill 2560 in 2021 during COVID. It took effect on January 1st of 22, and this makes most public meetings remotely accessible when it's reasonably possible. Of course, what is your definition of reasonably possible? I have no idea because that's different for everybody. So talk to your attorney about that. If you don't have internet at your town, village, or city hall in Oregon, how can you do that? How can you make that reasonably possible, accessible? So it leaves it makes it a law, but it also leaves it open to some interpretation, which I don't think is a bad thing either, because we have to be realistic about internet and things that, how that goes kind of hand in hand with all this technology stuff. Another state is Massachusetts. Massachusetts implemented an extension to they created remote and hybrid meeting provisions under their already existing open meeting law during COVID. And they granted an extension until March 31st of this year. There currently is a legislative proposal to make it permanent. I don't know where that is yet. It's probably a good thing for me to follow up on just because that's 6 weeks away. But that is something that, again, they reacted to during COVID, and then everybody adjusted accordingly. So what are the basics? Again, if you're not live streaming, if you've never had to do this before, what are the basics to do this? I can tell you from my personal perspective, my board meetings at my last municipality in Wisconsin was the town of Oakland in Jefferson County. Our meetings were recorded. We shared a cable station with a neighboring municipality. So our meetings were recorded and uploaded to YouTube, usually the same week. And you could still find me online at Oakland meetings for 3 years, and they don't watch them, they'll put you to sleep. But I already had some experience with that. But the basics are you have to have a live stream, you got to record it, you need storage, and how are you going to write the minutes as a result of that? So I'm just going to go over these each individually. These are not endorsements, first of all. I'm not endorsing anything particular for live streaming. These are just what's out there. YouTube is, everybody knows YouTube. It is free. It is really free. Our cable station in Oakland, it was the Cambridge Oakland cable channel. This is what we used. Everything was uploaded to YouTube. It automatically built our meeting video archive. It was sorted accordingly. People could search very easily. Everything was there. Residents can watch. Again, YouTube works for a live stream. It also works as an archive. So folks can tune in and view live. And I think this is what my church used in Wisconsin as well. I think they used YouTube. But they also have that archive of what happened previous. So if you're not using something, YouTube is a great option, and the price is definitely right. I'm going to stop here just for a second. If anybody is interested in knowing more as to how we can help, and I'm going to go into some more details, drop your name, your municipality, and your email in the chat. And my colleague Yelena, who is on with me, she's going to just make a note of that, and we'll follow up with you afterwards. But this is a message to me to remember to ask you guys. So if you want to know more about how we can help, and we've been already doing this for Vermont and Indiana customers, let us know, and we're happy to help you with that. So just drop it in the chat, and we'll take it from there. Another live streaming option is Zoom. If we weren't on what are we at? Livestorm. If we weren't on Livestorm right now, we'd be on Zoom. I live my life through Zoom. Most of my meetings are on Zoom. But Zoom is a little bit different from YouTube in that it's not free. You will need a paid account. There are limitations on cloud storage. Something that's been new that they introduced, I think, in the past 6 months. I see this whenever I'm on one of my own Zoom meetings. There's an AI tool that will automatically summarize the meeting for you. It's fairly accurate. It's not 100% accurate, but it's fairly accurate. I don't always use it. Sometimes I do. But you might also need, if you have an IT individual or company that you have, you might need help setting up those integrations with Zoom for live streaming, for storage, that sort of thing. I can tell you the meetings when they are in storage, they're usually password protected, so you'd have to share the password. Not a big deal, but they have that capability. But again, you can only store so much. So it might be something that, if you only need it for 90 days, this might work. But again, there's a cost to that. The next one is Google, and I'm sorry for the lag here. There we go. Is Google. Google Meet. I have not used Google Meet for a very long time, but it is part of the Google Workspace bundle. And again, kind of like Zoom, you will need a paid plan for large meetings. There is no extra storage, so this is only for live streaming. If you have storage somewhere else, great. If you need to store this might not be the best thing for you to use. But if you have nothing live streaming right now and you're already using like Google Suite, like Sheets and Docs and that sort of thing, this would be a really good tool to add onto there as well. Again, I haven't used it extensively. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is definitely one that is out there. So next, I want to kind of transition to how are we going to record those meetings. There's some different pieces of hardware that you're going to need. Most important is a microphone. And what I'm going to share here is, if you are using your recordings for the purpose of taking minutes, this is extra important because the person who is taking the minutes needs to understand what's actually happening, so like what the people are saying, so they can take those minutes clearly. I've done that before with, taking minutes from a meeting recording. I actually still do for a Native American tribe here in Nevada. And if people aren't speaking clearly and the mics aren't picking up things well, it's hard to complete those minutes. So just some microphone options. Do you have a handheld mic? Do you have a lavalier, so one that would sit like on your lapel, something, or clip on a shirt? I used to use those in Oakland. We also had, at my first municipality, we had tabletop mics that were kind of tied to a central location, so we had mics spread out all over the room. It's really important. Sometimes one mic in the middle might catch everything, but more mics is better. So make sure, if you, again, and I know there's money involved here, but if you can have more than one, that's great. And then recording software, again, I already mentioned a cable TV station. If you have one, use it. They might already be doing it, but if they aren't, I know, because again, I worked with those cable guys for a few years. They're always looking for more things to do and more ways to incorporate technology. Have them do it. They'd be happy to help. The first recorder I ever used was a digital voice recorder, like this little Sony one right here. And again, I'm not endorsing the Sony, but this one in particular, at my first municipality, really did a great job of picking up everybody speaking. I just put it in the middle of the room and let it record. And then when it was done, it was done. Did a great job for me. It was like $60. That was also like 10 years ago. But they're great if you're just kind of just starting out and you only need an audio recording and not a video one. The last one is a camera. Obviously, I'm on a laptop. I'm on my MacBook right now, so I have a built-in camera. You could certainly buy an external webcam, but I've also seen, I grabbed this. This is called an owl. It's kind of a floating head camera, and it's a little weird, and it's a little bit. I have a little bit of motion sickness, and I've watched meetings at times, and it makes me a little queasy. But it has a floating head that will rotate and point to the person that is speaking, and also provide multiple camera views. And so I don't know how much one of these costs. I want to say it's a few $100. I could be wrong, but it is kind of an all-encompassing option of recording audio and video and kind of getting multiple views. I don't know like the technical, how you upload to a computer and all that stuff. I imagine it's not very hard, but I've seen more of these recently in the past like 5-6 months. So this might be an option if, to kind of kill all the birds with one stone, to use that. And then, so now we're going to talk about the recordings. And all three platforms record: YouTube, Zoom, Google. They can record those meetings, which is great. Again, storage capacity, you have to figure out what you need, but all of them can record. So that's fantastic. But the next kind of step is accessibility. And so like YouTube, for example, it really becomes your video library host. Everything is archived there. Everything is accessible and available and sortable and all that good stuff. Another option is if you have these files, say, what you want to keep them not, on the internet, but you want to house them, you could use a secure cloud server hosted by your municipality. We had a very small server in Oakland where we were able to kind of use that. I don't think I would have filled it up, but that is another option as well. But then a third option is the storage provided by the tool used to record the meeting: Zoom, YouTube, Google, whatever you need. So there are options there for how to retain those files and those documents that you need. So the kind of the last thought to kind of bring all of this stuff together is in terms of the meeting minutes. And again, I still take meeting minutes, so I know what this is like. I've been doing it for 20 some odd years now. If you're already recording the meeting, you have the meeting recording, you have the audio, you have the agenda, why not take the next logical step? There are digital tools available to make taking minutes easier. And I'm going to talk about some of these in just literally on the next slide, but there's some AI tools that will help you write the minutes and help you check things out before sharing. And the reason is why I'm bringing this up is if you're already having to comply with these laws, these tools already exist, and it will really make your life a lot easier. So let me just go over a few of them really quick. Here we go. So did I skip a slide? No, I didn't. Okay. So some steps for meeting minutes. There we go. Sorry for the lag. My computer is a little wonky right now, but it's all good. Using the digital tools for you guys, what this would mean, it's less time trying to remember what happened. I know that when I took minutes as a clerk, I don't do this so much anymore, but as a clerk, I wouldn't always do them the very next day. It wasn't always fresh in my mind. So by having AI do it for you, it really frees your mind up. You don't have to think about that stuff. This also, allowing AI to do your minutes, or at least help with them, it allows you to participate. A lot of times the board looked at me because they had questions, they needed more information, and how can I actively participate in the meeting if I'm also at the same time taking the minutes? Third, there's a second pair of eyes, and that you can have correct action points and representation is communicated. It really helps you just to make sure everything is looking the way that it needs to and sounding the way that it needs to. And it makes sharing the minutes a lot easier, it kind of goes along with transparency, with accessibility, with inclusivity, kind of one of those themes. So here are 4 examples of actual meeting minute software. And again, I might endorse one of these, but we'll get to that. Fireflies.ai is pretty good. This is all stuff that I found on various websites. So it says it's 90% accurate. It works on Zoom, Teams, and Meet. It can do multiple languages. It offers a 7-day trial, and then it's $10 per seat per month. So if you only have one person doing minutes, great. If you have more, you'll have to pay more. Microsoft Teams. If you use Teams, if you have, say, you have the 365 suite of stuff, this might be something that you want to pay attention to. It provides full transcripts with speaker IDs and with timestamps. You can download it into a Word document when you're done, which is awesome. And then it's only available to 365 users who are on the business basic plan. Say that 3 times fast, for $6 a month. So again, if you're using Teams, if you have 365, might be something good for you to already look into because you might have access to it already. Next is Clerk Minutes. This is something that I know a little bit about because it's one of our products, but I also want to just incorporate everybody else. We created Clerk Minutes specifically for government. It's $99 a month or $2,000 a year. It pulls from your already existing agenda and recording to make the minutes. We offer a 14-day free trial, and it's completely web-based. You can assign the speakers and export as a doc or PDF. If you're interested in that, you can certainly reach out to me, and I can tell you more, but I don't want to go over time today. And then the final one is Crisp. This is free for small organizations. So again, the price is right. There is a cost for larger ones. One thing that Crisp has that I don't even think Clerk Minutes has, and maybe we do and I just don't know about it, but it includes background noise cancellation. So if there's people talking in the audience, if there's stuff going on, if there's a fire engine that drives by, it will mute some of that. And then it also provides speaker recognition. Crisp did not have any type of specific pricing on their website, so you have to go and look as a either small or large organization to see what those definitions are. But it's a pretty cool tool. It is a pretty cool tool. So how will incorporating all of this stuff help your municipality? And I'm not even talking about the AI minutes. I'm talking about everything. I mentioned this already. This will really bring you guys into the 21st century, but also you have to follow the law. As much as you may not like it, as much as the state didn't provide any funding for it, you have to follow the law. And so it gets you into the 21st century, but it also allows you to follow the law. Access to information. People are asking for more access to information. You are building a culture of transparency, and that includes everyone from elected officials, staff, residents, visitors. All that access to information is there, and it's a great culture to have. Access, and now we're going to talk about trust a little bit. Access in the form of digital public records will build trust in the government and with the leaders, but it also will allow the residents to support you guys to do what's best for them. And again, it kind of goes back to one of my first points. People want to know who's working for them. They want to know who those folks, those elected and those appointed officials are that are serving them. They want to trust them. They want to know them. They want to be able to put faces to names. I think that's the biggest thing, is the trust issue. There has been such kind of an eradication of trust at the higher levels of government, but not so much at the lower ones, at least not as much as the higher ones. We want to try and build that trust bridge as much as we possibly can. I teach about that in class as well to my students. So again, just kind of a quick update to sum everything up. What do you need to be compliant? You need to live stream your meeting. You need to record your meeting. You need to make the recording available with all related documentation, depending on where you live, for 30 days, for 90 days. And you have to produce and share minutes. That's everything that I just talked about in one slide. So how can we help you? We can do all this stuff. We can set up your YouTube page. We can set up a knowledge base for you. We provide white glove service. We already do we have done live streaming from YouTube for a while. We already offer Clerk Minutes. We have websites. We can transfer your existing website over to a new one. We can develop, we can host, all that good stuff. But that's what we can do. We can make, if you're not complying with the law yet, we can make sure that you are in time. And so I'm going to stop here. We've got about, I could probably go 15 minutes for a Q&A, but this is my contact information. Feel free to email me at any time. I am a compulsive email checker. So if you have any questions that either are not answered here or that you think of later, by all means, ask, fire away. It's not a problem. Or if you've reached the end of the recording, because we're almost done, if you've reached the end and you have questions, reach out to me. It's absolutely not a problem. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we will stop for questions. And if you'd like, add them in either the questions tab or the chat tab. Ooh, I see Matt is typing. I'm eager. Yes, can we get a copy? Yes, this presentation will be emailed out once it's processed and finalized. It will be emailed out to everybody, so you can share it. You can share me across the world, across the state, whatever works for you. But yes, you absolutely will get one. Great question. I see we have another one coming in from Regina. I hope I said that right. Oh, and I see we have a question from Mary. Mary says, I seem to remember that Zoom automatically does live captioning. Do Google and YouTube do that? I don't know if Google does. I think YouTube does. I think. That's a great question. I'm gonna write that down on an actual pad of paper because I'm a little bit old school like that. Does YouTube and Google live caption? I will get back to you on that, Mary, because that is an excellent question that I do not have the answer to. But thank you for asking that. Couple more in the chat. From Regina. We are a very small town and are thinking about having to do away with the internet. I can't even imagine that. Did you say we could record and post to a website? Regina, where are you from? Let me see if I can. Oh, you are. Yeah. Are you in Indiana or Vermont? Indiana. Let me go back. We're gonna go. I know what I said, but I want to make sure I say the right thing. Here we go. Okay. I pulled it up in my presentation. If no internet capability for a live transmission of public meeting is available, the governing body shall record the meeting. Then the recording of the public meeting may be destroyed after 90 days. So you have to record it in some form. That could be 25 people. I've never worked in a town that small. 400, yes, but not 25. You can record it. I would suggest a digital voice recorder then, but you have to hold on to that recording for at a minimum of 90 days, and then you can delete it. That is a great question. Thank you for asking. Diana also has a question. We have a council member who said we don't have to do this. Is this correct? Contrary to popular belief, your council members don't know everything. And I've lived in it too, where they think they don't have to follow the law. Unfortunately, they do. If they don't like the answer, I would suggest contacting your attorney and having them talk about it, even though that's going to cost them money. If they're not going to listen to you and they're not going to listen to me, hopefully they'll listen to a lawyer. But yes, this doesn't apply wherever you live. If it's Vermont or Indiana, there aren't exceptions. There are some interpretations and there's some levity built into it, but there are not exceptions to it. So yes, you would have to follow. The law. Let's see. Mary has a follow-up. Let me just do this. Do you know if the new laws require us to allow meeting participants to be able to participate in real time, or can we handle it like a presentation where everyone is muted? Thank you for putting in Indiana. Let's go take a look. All right. So it's on my presentation, and I can certainly share. I think what I'm going to do is I'm also going to share a link to the law, so that way you can look it up. And it's 6 pages long, but just so you have it, I'm going to drop that in the chat first of all. There you go. What I've got, I already forgot the question. Participate in real time. There we go. So all that it says, from what I gathered from it, on a publicly accessible platform, live transmissions of public meetings, an archive of copies of the transmissions with agendas, memoranda, anything like that. Residents must be able to access the recording, inspect, copy, or download. It doesn't say anything about participation, so please double check. I will say this. If you already normally have public comment on your meetings, or if you have a spot for public comment on your meetings, it might be a little weird if you don't have one virtually, and maybe follow those same rules. And again, I'll use myself as an example. We would give people 3 minutes, and they could say whatever they needed to or whatever, or if they want to type and they don't want to share, maybe you can give them like a couple of paragraphs and it can be read into the record. It might look a little weird if you don't allow them to participate just because they're virtual, but I would check with going deeper into the law, but also maybe check with your attorney as well, just to see. But in what I found, it doesn't address your specific question. So I'm always of the mindset, if it's not in the law, then it's not in the law. But I'm not a lawyer. One of my best friends is, but I'm not a lawyer. So that was a great question, by the way. Regina had a follow-up. We could put the digital copy on YouTube. So is that something we should think about? Yes, absolutely you should. If you're not going to have internet, you have to have a way that folks can at least go and look at it. So if you don't, and again, YouTube is free. Like YouTube is a great resource and YouTube is free, but absolutely, I would totally look at that. Totally look at that. Great questions. I love this. I almost feel like I'm in class right now. This is awesome. I've got another couple of minutes. Certainly, if you have any other questions, let me know. I think the other thing that I'll do is, while I have also Vermonters on here, I will grab the link to the Vermont law and share that as well, just so you have it. Just give me a minute to get that opened up. And I'll put that in the chat as well. I will tell you, as a current and even former cheesehead, we are very much looking forward to eating all the cheese we possibly can in Vermont. We're very, very excited to go and eat all the dairy. So, yum, yum, yum. Other questions? Again, still have a few minutes. I'm happy to stay on. My meeting isn't for another half an hour, so I'm happy to stay on. If you guys have any other questions? Let's see. Matt, my understanding is that all committees and subcommittees will need to be recorded as well, such as Parks Board or others. Yes, that is my understanding as well. Committee, subcommittee, main governing body, anything that is an actual public meeting, yes, will need to be recorded. That is my understanding as well. Great question. Other questions? I always see Mary's typing something. All right. It's exciting. Does that apply to Indiana and Vermont? Let's double check. Honestly, I can't. I know I just gave the presentation, but yes. So yes, it applies to Vermont. I do not know if it applies to Indiana. I am certain it applies to Vermont because the law says that. What it says is an archive of copies of the live transmissions with links to any meeting agendas, minutes, or memoranda. So I don't know if this applies to every meeting or just like, if you have a town, village, or a town board or a village board or a city council. I'm not 100% sure about that. I want to say yes, but that's something that you're probably going to have to investigate a little bit more on your own. And yes, executive meetings. We call those closed sessions in Wisconsin. Yes, those are definitely excluded. Don't need to take minutes. That's always been debated, but those are excluded from the actual recordings because those are closed sessions, executive meetings, that sort of thing. But in terms of actual public bodies, public meetings, I would look into that a little bit more just to make sure. Other questions? Other questions? Anybody want to talk about how awesome it is to live in Las Vegas? I'm kidding. Or how not awesome it is to live in Wisconsin in the winter. Just check the questions tab here. All good to go there. Yes, Matt, I see you're typing. Are we talking Wisconsin, Vermont, or Indiana, or Vegas, or all of the above? Yes. It is. I will tell you just because Matt planted the seed. I do miss coming here and doing what tourists do and coming here and blowing a bunch of money in a weekend and eating all the yummy things and going to a show and just like living it up for like 3, 4, 5 days and then going home. But now I just have to pace myself and I can do it, whenever I want. But I don't live at Caesar's Palace or at the Bellagio. I promise you. There's 2 million people that live here. So if you've never been, it is a great place to visit year round, even in the summer. I love 115 degrees for 3 months. My wife, not so much, but I love it. So you ever want to ask questions or need insights about anything here, I'm happy to help. Mary, you are very welcome. I will shoot you an email. I would love to talk with you as well. But you're very welcome. And again, if anybody needs to jump off, we're probably going to end in the next couple of minutes. I'll definitely stick around for other questions, things like that. But it's been really, really great having you here. I really appreciate it. I understand what you guys are going through. I totally get what unfunded mandates are and having to comply with laws that maybe are, mean one thing but might lead to something else. Like I totally get that. But the last thing that I'll just kind of say before we end here is I want to thank you guys for the work that you do. Again, I know it because I did it, but our roles are underappreciated and really aren't that important until they really, really are important. And so I think in the past few years, there's been a light shown on clerks and treasurers, administrators, municipal governments in general, and not even from, we want you to buy our stuff type of thing. Like from me, I really appreciate the work that you guys do and keep on keeping on. I know it can be hard, but there's retirement is always at the end of the tunnel for everybody. 19 years for me, but it's always there. So thank you for joining. I'll still stick around for another couple of minutes if you have questions. But again, this will be emailed out to everybody once the recording is finalized. You can share it far and wide with whomever you need to in or out of your organizations. Hopefully I won't see myself on the news or anything like that. But thank you so much for coming, and I'll hang out for another minute or two. And I'm just going to jot Mary's email down too. You are very welcome, Annette. You're very welcome. It is. I'm hoping you're not overwhelmed, but it is a lot of information. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I see Regina is typing, so I will wait patiently. All right. I will jot your email down too, Regina. New Amsterdam at Gmail. Perfect. I got it. Got to know. Thank you. I guess Diana would like me to talk to her as well. That's great. That is great. You are very welcome. Regina, it's no problem, Regina, I promise. Diane, you are very welcome. It's absolutely not a problem. Shamrock Lakes. Awesome. All right. Great. Well, we still have a few people on. Feel free to jump off as you need it, but I think I'm going to end this in just another minute or so. Again, if you'd like me to reach out, please do. Absolutely not an issue. I've got some of your emails, which is great. Otherwise, you can always email me proactively whenever you're ready. But I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you guys all have a great Wednesday. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been fantastic.